My guy, E.L, how you doing today? I'm Najir Chambers from Big Gold Belt Media. Super excited to talk about your project, Azrael, which is going to be in select theaters September 27th. How you feeling
My God.
today?
Well, it's crazy. It's like it's a long road to get a movie out, and it doesn't seem real yet. But like, yeah, when I look at Fandango and I see like listings, it's actually happening.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, yeah. And then obviously with the support of IFC and Shutter, like even after theaters, there's still a path for folks to see it. And I think in a very unprecedented world and times, you just never know what may happen to your project. So congratulations on that.
Oh man, yeah, because we didn't know for some period. There may be some periods we didn't completely know, but yeah, and yeah, God bless Shutter. I love them so much. They kept me sane during the pandemic for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I've been a big fan of your work, and I think that there's always a certain measure of like when you approach projects, there's always a certain measure of like diligence. I know if there's anything with like a monster or anything involved, it's always going to look badass. And this one also didn't support the multitude of ones we got to see in this. But also I think you also do like very almost unconventional things. And even with this, I kind of want to talk about your collaboration with Simon because some they hear Azrael, they're going to think one or two things. They're going to either think like DC Comics, or they may actually think like the
Gargamel's cat.
Bible. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So when you was when you were on board for this and talking to the writer and realizing that this was going to be a script that didn't have, if any, no words, if any, what was sort of your approach? And the most important thing I want to make sure I give you your flowers about, because I'll talk about the unconventional things, is even in the film where there is no dialogue, the sound mixing, the sound elements, that sense of dread just about around with the noises is worth probably another 10 more minutes to talk about itself. So like with you, I just want to kind of know when you got approached the project, when the gears started to turn, you was like, all right, I know what I'm gonna do with this one. What were sort of those thoughts?
Well, it's like I think that, you know, I'd never read anything like it. And I think like, the majority of I've had a weird career, you know what I mean? And I think that like sometimes the things that have been sent to me, like during different periods, they're just not that exciting. It's like after Cheap Thrills, I only got sent like dark comedies. And like I didn't like the dark comedies because like to me, like Cheap Thrills was all about playing with the idea of dark comedy in some ways where it's like I'm actually going like I don't really think it's funny. I think it's fucked up. But I'm playing at the fact that I'm like pretend it's fun. We're having a good time. I didn't really want to do just a basic dark comedy with no POV. And like so it felt like I wanted to get outside of that and do something else. It's like with small crimes. I was like, well, what all these underdog movies, like these noir underdog movies. It's like that the character, in some ways, like the character's a narcissist piece of shit, but like the movie still pretends that he's not. And
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of doing a movie that doesn't even pretend that he's not. He's so like from the jump, he is such a narcissist. And then to just like be stuck on this journey with him. And what does that do to the audience? Like, so I'm always trying to do something that's like, yeah, a little weird. And I feel like when I read Azrael, which was originally called The Lamb, that Simon
Okay.
Barrett sent to me, like at the moment we were trying to get hired to like do studio rewrites and like a lot of the horror movies, before Jordan Peele, before A24, before like the midnight movie shit really like kind of opened up the palette of horror experientially, we were kind of trapped in these cycles where it was like, okay, Scream did good. I know what you did last summer did good. It's all going to be that. The Ring did good. The Grudge did good. It's all going to be that. Like,
Yeah.
in it was a boring time. And I got interested in the genre because I like, because my background was like more, punk rock, and I loved that horror could be crazy. I just love that it
Mm.
could be crazy and different and rebellious. And like, so when I was suddenly trapped in this development situation that Simon was as well, we were like, fuck, man, like we would love to do the things that make us excited. So we challenged each
Mm.
other to write something that would do that. And he wrote The Lamb. And I read it and I was like, never read anything like it. It's not like any of the shit that we're looking at. And then
Yeah.
8 years later, when my producer friend Dan Kagan, who went on to do Long Legs, like a few months after. He was like, I think the times have changed a little bit. A weird movie like this might have a chance. And I'd been through a whole, like, almost a decade of shit that I would say, I'd still not read anything like that. And I think it was really appealing, as much as there's something fun about being able to sit on your ass in a soundstage while two actors talk to each other. You get to go, was that a good take? Cool, that's great. Now turn around. Like, there's a simplicity to it that feels also like kind of chill. You can kind of get dialed in pretty easily. There's only so many things to wrangle. But looking at something like this, that I was like, oh my God, like I'm totally out of context here. Not only like a lot of my movies have been about dialogue and now I don't have it. I've been shooting things that seem to take place in North America. Now, who the heck knows?
Yeah.
All nature, all outside. And
Yeah.
like, I played with prosthetics, I'd done stuff with monsters, but like, I hadn't really done this much action. I hadn't done the stuff that was maybe like this gory, this visceral. And I just felt like the challenge of it appealed to me, which in some ways I would say was what appealed to Samara Weaving too, because she looked at it and was like, this is fucking crazy. I've never done anything like it. It seems hard. Seems hard and it seems different. That's why I'm interested. And I think that's why I was interested because it
Yeah.
was a challenge,
Yeah.
different.
Oh man. You know what? You talk about your appreciation for music. So that is exactly where you can see some of the influence in that. And even when you go back to some of your other projects as well, too, which by the way, with your involvement with Swamp Thing, that's got to be the biggest what if of all time. Like
Oh yeah.
it was like the greatest show, and all the other
It
stuff
was a
behind
crazy,
that.
that
Like,
was a crazy experience. That was surreal as hell. And you know, that was you don't you don't even think about it. Like when you're reading the comic books and then one day you're out in, Wilmington, North Carolina in a giant fake swamp. Derek Mears shows up, giant man in a full practical Swamp Thing costume, and he's like, "Okay, in this scene, we're gonna do that." You're just like, crazy, crazy.
you bring up Samara. There's one thing about, and we already know her deep appreciation for the genre. And she's easily a name if you see casted, you're like yes. But even in this film, we see her still take a huge step forward in terms of just her career and with her performance here. We sort of see her in the beginning, sort of trying to navigate a little bit of cat and mouse and survival, but then we see her turn complete badass. I mean, she cuts it on. Can you talk about as the director when you see this sort of progression, this character arc, especially some of these final shots? I mean, come on, dude. That the shot with the fire in the behind and somebody's losing the head. I mean, that's got to be one of the best shots I've seen this year. But like,
Oh, thank
it was the chef's kiss of like, yes, that's exactly like the development, the icing of the cake of this character. Talk to me behind, again, the director hat here, seeing that from your eyes, and then ultimately that amazing payoff at the end.
Well, thank you. I think it's like with any of these things, it truly does, take having like a fucking great collaboration and having a great actor, and I think like I don't know what this movie would have been with like some other people. Like it might have just felt flat on its face. I think like Samara, the big thing that, like she came to me and she had some really cool concepts where it was like, because I'm not talking, she was thinking about different animals in different stages of the thing. And that was something that was like informing her performance, which I thought was
Hmm.
amazing because you need something underneath all this stuff because like it's all new. I think the thing that was really important to me was like the later stuff where she is very scary and badass. It's not going to hit unless you buy her being in a different place first, and then you clock the moments that like the anger starts to get her. The moments where when she hurts somebody and she's like, "Whoa, that happened," to when she hurts somebody and she doesn't even fucking remember the person's gone. Like shoots this person's head off and she's already like wandering. Like but you have to like be with her as she changes. And I think like with some of these action movies, right out the gate, people are like total badasses, or it's the final girl thing where somebody's like scared the entire movie, but then in 10 minutes, there's something
Yeah.
like Which, like, to me, it's like I don't think that's how people change. You know what I mean? I think people
Nah,
change kind of gradually, and like they're pushed and they're pushed and they're pushed and they're pushed. And I think that, that was a really important thing to me because, there isn't a lot of story in this that maybe everybody can necessarily understand completely. But what they can do is they can see how she's doing. How does she feel right now about what just happened? What does she want to do next? And I think like that was just like that was our true north, and Samara, she was so down to
yeah.
do it, you know. We wouldn't have survived without her.
Well, yeah, I would definitely appreciate the time. You got another project coming on Peacock very soon, so maybe we get a chance to talk about that a little bit in the future. But nonetheless, this was a banger. You continue to put out the type of films I want to consume, and Azrael is one everybody want to keep on their radar. So yeah, jump to theaters, folks, September 27th, and then keep your eyes peeled because eventually it'll land on the Shutter, the premier place to get all your horror fix. So I appreciate the time, boss.
I
And
appreciate
and
you.
congratulations on this.
Thank you so much, man. Great to meet
Absolutely.
you. You have a good day.
You too, boss.
Recaptured.